Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Drive Time with Matty Ice. It's kind of crazy that I'm here on this Monday, January 27th, hosting a show on the Sideline Junkies, to say the least. Um, I'm going to start with, of course, first and foremost, I need to thank the guys, and it's always important, building relationships is something that I always take very, very strongly with anything that I do. And Midnight Rider, Ben Conti, is a guy that him and I go way back, um, from days working together at good old Enterprise Rent a Car. Maybe a few of those guys will join in later as we move through some of the comments and stuff. But it's always important to keep those relationships going. Ben and I had always kind of stayed in touch through different things. Always happy to see him. And, so through that process, this came along. And it's kind of crazy to think about it, of being here today, hosting a show on the Sideline Junkies. So, first and foremost, I thank KG, I thank Midnight Rider, and I thank the boss man BJ for giving me this time here to spend with you. So, why did I pick Monday from 5 to 6 p.m.? Well, I'm kind of an old school radio nerd. Used to love finding out, going on, Howard Stern. I still listen to Howard Stern today. I'm going to be honest with you. I still do. He gives great interviews. If you ever have a chance to check him out, do that. But I go back to those days of the old school, and during the old school radio time, there's two times. There was the morning drive, and there was the afternoon drive. Now, I'll be honest, the morning drive, I gotta get up for work. I don't want to add an hour in the morning, so I figured why not do a good old radio 5 to 6 drive time. So I'm here along with our drive time to get you, in theory, get you going home. I work remote now thanks to COVID. Our company decided to go remote, so I don't have to drive home anymore. But maybe some of you do. So if you turned it on and you got it on your phone, whatever, great, that'd be great. Or if you're like me, you're working from home, and you just want to tune in, that's going to be my hope here. So that's going to be the purpose of the show, why I picked this time, for 5 to 6 on Monday. And let's be honest, the guys have kind of the rest of the week covered. You got the Tuesday and Thursdays with the Sideline Junkies already covered with the Tuesday night shows and the Thursday night shows, of course. Who can forget the passenger seat with Jack Carr on Wednesday nights? And then, so that left Friday night, and, could do a show on Friday night, I guess. But, Friday's for going out and starting to watch some sports, right? So let's do Monday, 5 to 6. So here on out, hopefully, if you guys like the show, I'll be here with you every Monday from 5 to 6. And we're just going to do what we always do. We're going to talk some sports. As we get going in the thing and I get a little bit more and more comfortable with stuff, we're going to, have some guests on from time to time. If you do have comments, if you are watching live, please send in those comments, because that's going to make the show better, going with everybody here side to side on this thing. So with that being said, I'm going to do a couple of fun little things here. And so with that, we are going to start with what I like to call the rear view mirror. So we're going to take a look back at the weekend that was. And of course, where else would we start on the weekend that was than with our NFL conference finals, right? So I don't know to me, this is a Super Bowl that nobody wanted. We have, of course, the lovely Philadelphia Eagles against the lovely Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you recall, there was a Sunday drive that I think it was maybe either towards week 17 or week 18. And I stated there the Super Bowl that everyone wanted was going to be Buffalo and Detroit. And the Super Bowl we're going to get is Kansas City against Philadelphia. And here we are, with that exact unfortunate result. So the Philadelphia Eagles took down the Washington Commanders 55-23. And then the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Buffalo Bills once again, 32-29. So, just not probably the results that we wanted, for anyone, especially for those guys that are associated here at the show. Bossman BJ and his love for his Buffalo Bills, and of course KG, Jack, and Ben on the Washington Commanders. I really feel bad for you guys all. I mean, being a sad, pathetic Raider fan that I am, it was hard to watch Kansas City win it yet again, of course. And then I was just really rooting for Washington. I just think they've been a great story. So let's dive into that game a little bit more. Washington starts off with a long drive, totally Washington Commander style, right? They get up, they suck up some clock. It's an 18-play drive. They convert 2 different fourth downs. And then they got to 4th and 4, and they decided to kick a field goal. And I'll be honest with you, wasn't really thrilled with that decision to kick the field goal there. I thought if you're going to go for it on the 2 other fourth down plays, why not go for it again at that point in time? They're at the 18-yard line. I guess I get the idea. You want to come out with points when you have a drive that goes that long. So you're making sure you come out with three. But, it's just not been what Washington has done all year. So I thought it was kind of a weird decision to make as far as going for three instead of trying to go for it once again on fourth down. You've been successful the first two times really pretty easily. Just didn't really like that call at all. And then of course, what happens on the very next, so you kick your field goal, great. But then what happens on the very next play? The first play for Philly, Barkley gets free and runs it all the way down the field on a one play touchdown. And Saquon Barkley is just a beast this year. He just looks driven. He might single-handedly take Philly to the Super Bowl title this year, but that first play from scrimmage is just, what he's done all year. And unfortunately, Washington missed some tackles on it. And next thing you know, it's 7-3. And then the first thing happened in this playoffs that hasn't happened all year long for Washington. They turned the ball over. It's a great play by the defender, Vaughn. He punches the ball out from Brown. And next thing you know, the Eagles again, they take full advantage of it. And it's 14-3 in a blink of an eye. So that's a tough pill to swallow if you're a Commanders fan there. Then you come out, you get another field goal. This one's on a 4th and 10, so I get it. You're not going to go for it there, and it does get it back to a one-score game. So it's 14-6, and at that point in time, you're maybe thinking, okay, and then Philly misses a field goal, so you're like, okay, here we go. And then Washington goes down the field. They get a big play from McLaren, and next thing you know, it's 14-12. They go for two, which I get. It's a little early for me. I don't like teams that chase points early in the first half. I think you got to kind of let at least worry about that come late third quarter, fourth quarter to chase the points. But they don't get it. But it's 14-12. Philly then has the drive. They're 4th and 5. Big decision by them to go for it. They go for it, and they surprisingly, the big catch by AJ Brown gets them down there, right there close. Could have probably called a hold on that play on I can't remember the gentleman for the Philly offensive line if they wanted to, but they don't, and so the touchdown occurs. So now you're sitting there at 20-12, and again, not bad. But what happens? The very next kickoff comes up and it's a fumble. And that was, again, probably the worst time for a turnover to have happen. You just can't have that turnover on the kickoff there. McNichols fumbles it. Philly gets the ball right back. And then we probably have, I think, what would be the most controversial play in that entire game. You have Barkley on the third down play. He's on the sideline. He steps out of bounds, and then he gets hit. By the letter of the law, it's probably the right call. Do I like it there in that game? No, I'm not really sure what Sandstrel's supposed to do. Barkley just steps out of bounds. He makes the hit. I don't really think it's a dirty hit. It wasn't like it was a vicious hit out of bounds. He doesn't really hold up at all either. But it would have been 4th down, keeps him from getting the field goal. So it's a big play right then and there. Again, I didn't really like the hit, but needless to say, they go in, they score. It's 27-12. Washington does get some time left. They kick the field goal, and it's 27-15 at the half. So I thought right then and there, they're okay. Got one comment here, says here, see here if I can show it here. Says the Giants are kicking themselves by Boss B 000. Yeah, I agree with that totally. Like that's 100% true right now with Barkley, right? They've got to be kicking themselves for and then letting them go to, not granted, he signs a free agent, but letting them go to there as a free agent is just something else, right? So 100% agree with you on that one. So there we are. We're at the halftime. It's 27-15. Washington gets a punt to start, and you're like, okay, they get them. You're right there. You get the hole that you need. They start off there with that, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. So you guys, but then another rarity that happens. Daniels gets sacked, and Philly forces their own punt, and then Philly goes right down the field. They get a big play on Goddard, and that leads to another Philly touchdown. And there, now it's 34-15. You're starting to think, oh boy, where is this game going to really get out of hand quickly? But Washington goes down the field. They get the touchdown, and it's 34-23 at that point in time. And then you get the stop. The D gets the stop, and now I'm starting to think, okay, 34-23, we're within a possession here. Then again, untypical of Washington this whole entire playoffs. Another brutal fumble by Eckler. Philly goes right down the field. And then we just had the folly of plays that happened there at the goal line. First on the first down play, um, the snap is bad. Hurts almost doesn't recover. I mean, Washington could have almost caught a big break there. And then we just, I learned something new. I never knew that if a team, repeatedly jumps off sides, that they could award the touchdown. I had no clue that that rule existed until that came up in the game yesterday. I thought what Luvu did was kind of funny, especially the first time. I mean, his fly over that line was sweet. He did it not only once, he did it twice. They warned him after the third time. The third time was clearly not deliberate. I mean, I don't care what they say. I mean, that was not deliberate at all. But it is what it is at that point in time. The Hertz tush push works. You can see it happen there, and look, there's a lot of talk about whether that play should be allowed or not. I got no problem with it, until you stop it. And proof in the pudding is going to be in the game that comes up later that the tush push is stoppable. When we get more into the KC Philly game. So at that point in time, another touchdown. It's 41-23. Philly adds on to get to our final score, 55-23. And overall, Daniel, solid day, 255. Had a touchdown, 48 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. Did throw the one interception. Didn't really get much from Robinson or Eckler on the ground. Ertz was the big leader, had the 11 catches for 104. McLaren, 3 receptions, 51 yards, the touchdown. But the key, again, is the 3 lost fumbles and the turnover. Four turnovers is just really hard to win an NFL playoff game. The Lions proved that the week before when they turned over the ball all over the place to Washington. And, unfortunately for Washington, they just picked the wrong game to have that happen in. Hurts, 246 and the touchdown, 16 rushing yards, and of course the 3 rushing touchdowns. Barkley just on fire, another 118 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. It's like the same thing for him every single week, 2 to 3 touchdowns plus 100 yards rushing. Didn't do so much receiving this time, but he didn't really have to. Shipley came in because Gainwell got hurt for 77 yards and a touchdown. AJ Brown, 6 for 96. Goddard, 7 for 85. So I know it's a sad day for you Commanders fans out there. I do feel for you. But it just, wasn't your time, I guess, for lack of a better word. But if you're a Commanders fan, be proud out there. Just be proud. That team is not that far away. I think maybe another offensive lineman, you could find it there. Just be ready, Commanders fans. I think you got a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. Honestly, there's just a lot for you guys to look forward to. Add a few more pieces to the puzzle. This team is not going anywhere. Jaden Daniel, he's just a stud, just a stud. There's just no way around how good that quarterback's going to be. You get him another wide receiver to go with McLaren, add in an offensive lineman, help the defense. I think the defense needs a little bit of work because again, they showed their inability to stop the run a couple different times, and that came back to hurt them too. So just a lot to look forward for there. I think, you got nothing there to worry about at all. That gets us to our second game, KC and Buffalo. First thing I want to kind of start with, I'm a sports junkie as far as like I love good calls of games. Jim Nance just is one of the best. I could hear him call a reading of a phone book, I think, and I'd be entertained by just how well he calls the game. Tony Romo, every now and then, but I just could listen to Jim Nance do anything. He's just so solid. But another sad situation for Buffalo. They just can't get over that hump of the Kansas City Chiefs right now. That first drive, honestly, Allen should have been intercepted twice. They somehow just got away with getting to punt the ball. KC goes right down the field. They score a touchdown. It's 7-0. Buffalo settles for a long field goal. A rarity, KC actually fumbles the ball. Mahomes actually has a fumble. I think it was like the first turnover in like 5 or 6 weeks, something crazy like that. Excuse me. And then Buffalo goes right down the field and scores a touchdown. So it's 10-7. KC gets the help again of a questionable face mask call. Yeah, I could see where at real speed you make that call, but obviously the replays show that it wasn't the face mask at all that he grabbed. But I get it. The head kind of turned a little bit. He grabs the visor. It kind of makes the head turn. So it's 14-10. But that call to me wasn't that big of a deal. I know we like to get on the KC side of that. Casey gets a hold. They go right down the field again. Next thing you know, it's 21-10, and I'm already thinking, uh-oh, well, this game's going to get out of hand real quickly for Buffalo. But then they get a touchdown at the end of the half. A great catch by Hollins. Um, just a spectacular play in the end zone that he makes. They first kick the extra point. They get it. It doesn't. It goes through. It's good, but they get them on the offsides, and then they decide to take the points off the board and go for two, which I guess I kind of get to make it a 3-point game. But again, I'm just not a big fan of chasing points early like that. They don't get the 2-point conversion on their version of the tush push with Allen. And now it's 21-16, going into the half there. So, if you're a Bills fan, you're feeling okay about it. You're in that. They actually come out, they get a big stop. They go a gutsy fourth down, called it on their own, and a crazy effort by Cook to get the go-ahead touchdown. Just he reaches across. It's just something that was incredible play. But, since they missed the two earlier, they go for the two again, and again, they don't get it. So now you're only up 22-21, where if you kick the two damn extra points, you're up three, you're up 24-21. So again, I just don't like it, where they did that. And man, the Buffalo Bills just could not get the push tush going at all. Um, I love this. This is one of my good old friends here. I'm going to show this comment real quick. He says, "Please skip any Raider talk. Chad and I go way back. We are both sad Raider fans. I can't keep you that promise, Chad. It might come up a little bit later on when we get to some of the coaching moves, unfortunately." See, Boss B comes back and he says, if I can get the show, come on. There it is. Heartbreak for my Bills yearly. Yeah, I feel I feel so bad for you. I was hoping really. It's funny because I was on the ice when this game was going on. So like I'm asking the guy that does the scorekeeping, hey, what's the score of the game? What's the score of the game? What's the score of the game? And he's like, oh, they got the ball. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's hope for the best. But unfortunately, the best was not what we all wanted to have happen. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. But let's get into that part there. So. You got 6 minutes left, and then Mahomes does what Mahomes does. It's a story that we've all seen. We hate it. They go down, they tie the game at 29. Um, or wait, I got ahead of myself there. First, we had the touchdown by Curtis Samuel to give them the lead, that was his only catch of the game. He makes that catch. It's 29-22, and then Mahomes does what he does. He goes down the field, they tie it, and then they got the ball back, and then 6 minutes. I didn't like the fourth down play that Buffalo did. You just been, you know. I don't like the idea of bringing the receiver in motion behind the guy. Kansas City is going to blitz. That's just what they do. Like they're going to blitz. Um, the play that they do at 32-29 was I just didn't like it. It just was not my cup of tea for that play call in that situation. I just would rather see them do something big, and then they don't, and it's just we've seen the story before, right? It's how it just seems like every time, that KC's there, they've got a chance to win. I know there's some talk on the other fourth down play of did Buffalo get the first down or not. I don't really know that the camera angles were great. It was close. I think he was a little short, honestly. There's the one camera angle, he definitely looked short. There's the other one where it looks like he had it. But here we are again, we're KC holds on, then they get the first down, and they got the chance for the three-peat. I'm probably going to use next week to dive more into KC a bit because we'll have a little bit of time before to break down Super Bowl 59. But I do want to talk about Buffalo. I know Boss BJ talked a lot about that if they lost this game about firing McDermott. I get it, but this KC team is just Andy Reid just. This is what Andy Reid teams do, it seems like, and especially with him and Mahomes, they're just so tough. And for both Buffalo and Baltimore, they're kind of in the same spot. Can either of these teams get over that Kansas City hump in the playoffs? I still think Buffalo has time. You got a lot of good players. You still have Allen. You still have Cook. You got you got Shakir coming into it now too, into the mix on offense. The defense is still pretty solid. I think you got to just maybe get one or two more players. Maybe the coaching changes there. I just don't know who's out there. I know he talked about John Gruden, but I just can't go there. That second stint in Vegas, just he was in charge a lot of their player personnel decisions. I'd have to pull up the one draft class, and maybe I'll do that for one of these years. But like 0 players of that draft class made it. They were all out of the league within like a year. It just is not the way that you want to go. Well, here's a funny. So Vic says, I get him up here. There it is. I'd rather hear Raiders talk than the Chiefs. Well, I know. I feel you on that. I'm with you on that. But we're going to leave that Chiefs talk be for now. We'll just look at the stats here real quickly on this one. Casey, they're not overwhelming. Mahomes 245, one touchdown, 43 yards, but he did have, of course, the two touchdowns rushing. Hunt had a nice day, touchdown. Worthy 6 for 85, and a touchdown. Kelsey only had two catches for 19 yards. Buffalo does a really good job of keeping Travis Kelsey out of the picture. It's just unfortunately they couldn't do much there. With that, Mahomes actually has one fumble for first time. Allen 237 for the two touchdowns, only 39 yards rushing. Cook 85 yards on the two touchdowns, three receptions for 49 yards. Mac Hollins had 375 for 3 for 73 in the touchdown. Shakir 6 for 46. Strangely enough, this was the first game where the team that won the turnover battle did not win the game the entire playoffs. The only turnover was the Mahomes fumble, and it's the first team that won the turnover battle loses the game. So I thought that was kind of, a weird twist there for this one. So we're going to leave the world of the NFL for a little bit now, and in our look in our rear view mirror here, we're going to look at the college basketball weekend that was. Weekend before was upset Saturday. We had some more upsets this weekend as well. But before we get into those upsets, the big game was Auburn against Tennessee. Auburn won and would either be called a close game or an ugly game or a defensive game, whatever way you want to call it. Both teams shot 30 to 34%. It wasn't pretty, but Auburn wins 53-51 on a late three by Miles Kelly. Number 7 Houston took down number 12 Kansas in a double overtime. That one was a little bit more thrilling, 91-86. Vanderbilt got their second upset on a weekend. This time they took down number 9 Kentucky, 74-69. Texas took out number 13 Texas A&M, 70-69. Number 15 Oregon lost to Minnesota. That's their second upset loss in a row. It's really hard, I think, for these big 264 teams that are out on the West Coast, the Oregons and the UCLAs. They just have to constantly make these trips out to the Midwest. I just have to imagine, especially for these basketball teams, it's got to be brutal coming out to Minnesota, and then maybe you get lucky, they're smart, they schedule out to Wisconsin, and then another trip you got to go to Columbus and Ann Arbor. Just constantly the back and forth across country for these basketball teams. It's going to be interesting to see, to me, how that wears on some of these teams, especially when we get into tournament time in March. Getting on, I don't care, they're 18, 19, 20-year-olds, just getting on planes that much at some point in time is going to take a toll on you. It's just, I know how I feel, especially coming from West Coast to East Coast. It takes a day to get used to that time difference again, and to constantly have to be doing it back and forth. I think that has a lot to do with maybe some of these West Coast big 269 teams, playing conference games on the East Coast and not faring well. UCL's coach talked about a couple weeks ago that they've already been to the Statue of Liberty twice this year on 2 different trips. So it's just, it's crazy. But I digress. Sorry. Number 22 Missouri takes out number 16 Ole Miss 83-75. Xavier takes out a struggling UConn team. They've lost a couple now. 76-72. West Virginia just got into the top 25 after an upset last week. This time it's their turn. They get upset by Kansas State 73-60. On the ladies' side, number 1 UCLA took out number 8 Maryland 82-67. Florida State upset number 13 UNC 86-84. I am always a big fan of seeing UNC lose in any sport. Being my old Raleigh, North Carolina days, never was a big Tar Heel guy, so always don't mind seeing them lose a game. Let's see here. Let's see, Georgia Tech. Hold on here. I lost my notes there. There we go. Pull that one back up. See, Georgia Tech won as well. And then Vandy pulled off another upset of their own on the ladies' side. They beat number 14 Alabama 66-64. Number 9 TCU took down number 25 Baylor 80-75. Then I'll take a little peek here at some NBA news from the weekend. There wasn't really too many big upsets or any big games that happened this weekend. The Cleveland Cavs are finally, maybe some might say, coming back to reality maybe a little bit. It's going to be their first real stint. This is their first 3-game losing streak, because they lost again a couple games over the weekend. So it's a streak of a little bit of a bad spell. It'll be interesting to see how they respond. They've been playing so well all year, which of course here, since I'm a Cleveland guy, has been pretty much the story of the thing here. Sorry, I'm just not realizing that for some reason I've got a nice little sunspot coming in right on me because I'm sitting to my west window and it's coming right in on me. I didn't think about that when I sat here, but we'll remember that for next show anyway. So meanwhile, OKC, they just keep on winning. They took down Portland as they are the best team now in the NBA record-wise, and Boston also keeps on winning as they took out the Dallas Mavericks over the weekend. Um, I try to cover anyone, so how about a little tennis, anyone? There was some tennis over the weekend. The Australian Open Down Under took place, and in the men's final, Jannik Sinner, you're a sinner, took out Alexander Zverev 6-3, 7-6, 6-3. On the ladies' side, Madison Keys from the U.S. Took out the number one seed Ariana Sabalenka 6-3, 2-6, 7-5. So cheers to that for the Madison Keys winning on the ladies' side. It's good to see the U.S. tennis maybe trying to get back into being a thing, especially the ladies' side. It's been a while since the days of Serena and Venus. Um, for a dominant ladies tennis player on our side. We've got a couple of upkeeps there. On the men's side, it's been forever. I don't know if it's ever going to get any better, to be honest with you. But that's going to end our weekend review, or look in the rearview mirror. Now, I talked earlier about my love for broadcasting, and it all starts, with the great Marv Albert and Doc Emmerich and all those type of different things. You go back to sports days. But one thing that was always bothered me on sports shows is if you got lucky, there'd be maybe a 2-minute hockey segment. If you're really, really lucky, you get a 2 minutes hockey segment. Well, not here. Here, we're going to be driving to the net every single week. This is going to be a regular hockey segment that we're going to do. And man, do we have some good topics here today. So it, of course, is going to start with our OV watch. Where are we at? Where is our great Alexander Ovechkin at? He's now currently at 22 goals in 33 games that he has played. Keep in mind, he did miss, a good a little bit chunk of games there. He needs currently right now 19 to tie Wayne Gretzky. He needs 20 to break the record. He is on pace to score. His current pace, I think, is 44 goals. I remember here, right? Let me pull up my number here. Yeah, 43 goals is what the current pace is. So even with the timeout, he's still scheduled to break this record. Right now, it's projected they should break it around April 10th. You guys see me throughout the chats on here where I always keep you guys informed as far as any time. I was doing it after every game. I'm going to go down now to just doing it every time he scores, just so that way we keep it a little bit fresher that way. So anytime he scores a goal, I will update that. Right now, he's scheduled to break it on April 10th at home against the Carolina Hurricanes. That leaves with 5 games left in the season. He was on a crazy goal pace earlier this year of 0.8 a game, but he has slowed down a bit. So he's now at 0.6, which does put it in jeopardy a little bit if he keeps going at this pace. But I think he still should be fine. He still should beat it. I think he's looking pretty good there. Let's see here. We do have one comment from my announcer's comment. Chad puts out here, announcers' all-time favorites were Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen. That was a great old school team. I'll put them right there with Pat Summerall and, of course, John Madden. John, of course, Raiders guy. I love John Madden back in the day. There was always good with John Madden for sure. So I'll put him up there with that too. For one of the greats. So, I think Ovi has got a good shot at it still, barring another injury. But the real talk, and this is why, you guys all know I'm a hockey guy. So for today, I did choose to wear my old school Washington Capitals jersey. And I want to talk about the Washington Capitals because in case if you haven't been paying attention to this team, they had the best record in the NHL. They are currently 33, 11, and 5. They have turned around one of the worst goal differentials from last year. If you recall, they made the playoffs last year with the worst goal differential in the history of the NHL playoffs. Didn't fare well. They got swept by the New York Rangers. But so what did they do? They added in a goalie in Logan Thompson from the Vegas Golden Knights. You add in a great defenseman in Jacob Chichurin from the Ottawa Senators. They also add in Matty Waugh. You make a trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois, which, I'll be honest, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't too sure about it because I've seen Pierre play in Columbus and his time with LA, and he just wasn't able to produce. But I was always hopeful that if he was going to turn it around, it was going to be here playing with Ovechkin because Ovechkin makes guys better. He just does. So that was going to be my hope. And man, has every move that the Capitals made this year just been lights out. Logan Thompson has fit in really well with Charlie Lindgren. They are a great 1-2 punch. They both have sub 2.65 goals against average. So if you're not familiar with hockey terms, a GAA is how many goals a game that they're giving up. You want that to be definitely below 3 for sure. If you can, that's a really good sign. They both have save percentages, which just very simply take the amount of shots that they face divided by the amounts of goals. They're both at above 90. That's what you want to have your goalies at, is to be above 0.90. Uh, I talked about Jacob Tuchern. He leads the team, the defensive side, with 13 goals. He's made the power play kind of back to what people that are familiar with the Washington Capitals know of their power play. Matt Waugh has been a great add on the defensive side. And Pierre-Luc Dubois has just been phenomenal for them. 39 points. He's a plus 18. This is one of those amazing hockey deals, I think, that's actually worked out great for both teams. Pierre-Luc Dubois has been great for your Washington Capitals. Darcy Kemper, who kind of struggled in Washington, but he has filled in very nicely in LA, and he's turned into be a real solid. He's gotten back to what he was in Colorado. So I don't know what it was with this time in Washington where he just gave up some really weird goals that weren't like him. So this is one of those good hockey deals where it's kind of worked out. I think for both sides are pretty happy with it. It's just been a good trade. And I can't say this player enough for, Dylan Strome's been great. Connor McMichael's been amazing. Those two guys have been fantastic. But Alexei Protas has just come out of nowhere this year. The dude has 20 goals in this amazing surge where he's just starting to produce goals like he's never produced before. He scored a combined total of 13 goals his last 3 seasons. So he scored 13 goals in 3 years. He scored 20 and a half a season this year. Just crazy what that kid has done. Um, Jeff Nail chiming in and who's a huge Caps fan. Logan Thompson, 6 years and 5.85. And talking about, I think, PLD for Selke. Yeah, I think there's a chance for that for sure. For he could have that potential at plus 18. It's just Jeff called it out. He thought that deal was going to work out great for him, and I tipped my, since I'm just drinking it. Hold on, I can't see because I got my background on. I'll tip my Sprite to him for that, because he's been the difference in there, for sure. So tip to the Washington Capitals. It's going to be interesting what they do come trade deadline. I don't know if they're going to tinker with what's working right now. That they may. I could see them maybe, try and add another D. You can never go wrong with adding another D. Um, yeah, this is true too. Jeff put his in Protas. They're all 5-on-5. He does not play on the power play. That's what I mean. It's just crazy. The dude has 20 goals and he scored 13 the last 3 years. So I don't know where he's found the goal scoring from, but he has found it, and he's found it quickly for sure. So just a tip of the hat to him for sure. Um, I do want to talk about a team that's local to me, and I'm not a Columbus Blue Jacket fan, but this team is something to watch. They're a fun team. They're the team where Johnny Gaudreau was playing for them. He passed, of course, before the year in that unfortunate accident. It's a team that I think a lot of people just kind of thought without him, didn't seem on paper to be a lot of talent, that this was going to be a team that probably was going to be at the bottom of the standings. And instead, they are sitting in a playoff spot right now. They're 24, 19, and 7. They're in the first wild card spot as it stands right now. Now, the Eastern Conference is just crazy right now. You've got like 5 or 6 teams all within 1 or 2 points. So this changes almost nightly. But right now, they would be in. They won 6 in a row going into at the end of last weekend. They've been playing 500 hockey since. They're led by Zach Werenski, 54 points. Kirill Marchenko is just having an incredible year too for them, 53 points. They're getting good goaltending from Elvis Merzlikins. This team is just fun to watch. I would love to see this team get in the playoffs just because of the story. They're selling out Nationwide Arena in Columbus in early March. They've got the outdoor game coming up against the Detroit Red Wings in Ohio Stadium. That place is going to be crazy. It's going to be an amazing thing, and I have tickets for it, which I'm very happy about. So that's just another team I did want to mention here, because it's a team that, if you're looking for a hockey team maybe to get behind this year, because maybe yours isn't doing so well, that'd be a fun bandwagon team to get behind. And it sucks that really 3 of the teams I really like are all in the same division. Because of course my true love is the Carolina Hurricanes. I like the Washington Capitals, and I actually like watching the Blue Jackets play, and they're all in the same division, which kind of sucks and makes it hard. But it is what it is. Now, we actually did also have on Friday night, we had the rarity of rarities in the hockey world. We had a blockbuster trade in the midseason. You just don't see these happen honestly, really ever during the season. I can't remember the last time we had a big trade like this. So here's the details of the trade. Carolina gets Mikko Rantanen from the Colorado Avalanche, and they also got Taylor Hall from the Chicago Blackhawks. Colorado gets Martin Necas and Jack Drury from the Carolina Hurricanes. And then they also get a second round pick in 2025 and a fourth round in 26. Chicago gets a third round pick from Carolina, and they actually took on salary. The NHL does these weird trades where you'll see a team just get a pick or two for taking on salary to make the salary cap work in the NHL. I'm still puzzled by why Chicago did this because they only got a third round pick. They didn't get any prospects. They basically they lost the salary for Taylor Hall because they took on that whole salary, but they took on some of Rantanen's salary. Um, I just don't know why. I don't get why Chicago did it, but I'm being a Carolina fan. I'm glad that they did because it made Carolina be able to do this trade. So I first want to take this trade from the Colorado side. It frees up some cap space. They've got some room to do something else. And I think you're going to see them do something else. I know they want to add a second line center for sure to still go with Nate McKinnon. Mikko was a UVA, an unrestricted free agent. The rumor is that he wants 8 years, 14 million. The Avs just don't have the money to pay him. They got Nate McKinnon on a big contract. Cal McCarr, their stud defenseman, is coming up for another one of those deals. They just don't have the money there to pay him. So I guess they figured, let's get something. And you get Martin Necas, who has a year after this year left. He's another young player. Has a lot of potential. He actually led the NHL in scoring through the first 20 games this year, but then it's kind of cooled off and he's kind of back to what he is, which is a spotty, really good player. Drury is a young fourth line guy. I don't know, he's got some upside there as too, but he's a good center. He can win some faceoffs for them. So I think he's, got some potential for them. So there's some good side there. Oh, all right. Check this one out here real quick. That's my daughter, Sarah. So she's saying hi. So that's all good for her. Yay. I like seeing some of the kids get in there. I made Sarah into a hockey fan. Well, I'm not sure she wanted to or not, but we made her into one anyway. So, um, now I'll take this here from Carolina. They're the clear winners of this trade. Um, you don't add a guy like Mikko Rantanen every day. He's an elite scorer. Honestly, the minute he stepped on the ice, he probably became the best player on the Carolina team. Not that Carolina's a bad team, but they got Sebastian Aho, they got Andrei Svechnikov. They're all good players. Rantanen's been only 5 players the last 4 years have more points than him. He's just lights out good. He's a Finn. So he should have good chemistry with Sebastian Aho, who's also a Finnish-born player. Those two actually played together in juniors for a little bit on the team. So it's been a while since they played, but they had good chemistry then. I'm not, and they're playing together in the first game. So I think as get a couple games in, get a couple practices in, see who fits best with those two. And then the question is going to be, can they sign him? They've got some money coming off the books. They will have the money to be able to sign Mikko. So it's really, it's tough. I like Martin Necas. He's a Carolina-born player, as far as not born in Carolina, but he's been with them his entire career. Carolina drafted him, so he's come up from their minor league teams and stuff like that. So it's an interesting little trade. We'll see how it goes. If Carolina can get Mikko signed to a long-term deal, it's just going to be great. Jeff adds in here, top 10, 15 player, great trade. And it just adds in here, great trade for the Canes, which I do agree. Vic also puts in here, I don't think the Canes are done wheeling and dealing. Tuloski is a dog. Yeah, that's the general manager for the Carolina Hurricanes. He is. I agree. I think they could still add. I would love to honestly see them either add a third, fourth line center, or even I could see them going with adding in another goalie. They just got Freddie Anderson back, and they go with their young Russian goalie. PK is what we call him, and he's an interesting character. Sometimes he has some great games, sometimes he doesn't. So we'll see how that all goes for sure. But I do also want to we're going to touch more on this next week because we're going to have some time because we're going to have our down week in between the Super Bowl. The Four Nations Face-Off is coming up February 12th through the 20th. If you don't know what that is, the NHL is not doing an all-star break this year. Instead, they're going to feature a four-nation tournament. It's going to be between Canada, the U.S., Finland, and Sweden. They're going to basically do like a little round robin, and the top 2 teams will play for the championship game. So that is something to keep an eye out for. But I do also want to talk, I want to keep the ladies going here too. So a little PWHL update. This is the Women's Professional Hockey League. That is ongoing right now. It's a 16 league. They're in their second season. The Minnesota Frost won the first season, and they are currently tied atop with the Montreal Victory. You have to pronounce it Victory. It's not victory because it's Montreal and it's French. So you have to go Victory with 23 points. But Montreal has played 3 fewer games. The leading scorer is the legend Kendall Coyne-Schofeld. She has 14 points. She plays for Minnesota. Maddie Runer has the best goals against average at a 1.85 for the Frost, and Emmerance Maschmeyer leads the Ottawa Charge, which is a 934 save percentage. And see, even if you don't follow hockey, you have to admit this: hockey players, oh, I don't know what it is. Hockey players always have the coolest name, like Moschmeyer. That name says hockey, doesn't it? If somebody says their last name is Moschmeyer, you're probably saying you play hockey, don't you? Like there's a lot of cool names like that. I mean, I'll do a whole fun hockey name segment one of these days here just to have some fun. So, all right, so that's our drive to the net. We're coming up here on 40 minutes, which means we're getting close to the exit ramp. We're getting close to the end of the show here. So I first and foremost, this is what I want to dive into. I haven't had a chance to talk here, and I'm gonna pop. I know this is probably a sports no, but now the sun's going down, and I didn't think about this either. So there, I'm popping on this light behind me here real quick. So I apologize, boss man. If they're watching, they're probably freaking out there because I just went off camera. But this is the nuances of me hosting my first show, so I'll figure this stuff out out here, I promise. So college football, this is my championship rant. Okay, I'm Ohio State fan, love that they won. I would not have been upset if Notre Dame won either, of course. My uncle, who just passed a couple years ago, was a huge Notre Dame fan. So if they would have won, I think that would have kind of honored his memory. I would have been cool with that either way. But this is what I don't get. I've seen a lot of people gripe and complain going up to the championship game. Oh, it's going to be a two-loss team, or if Notre Dame wins, they lost to NIU and they didn't win a conference championship, and Ohio State finished fourth in their conference. Well, I have this to say. They still would have had to beat four really, really good teams to get there. And when we get to March Madness, which we're going to get to here in a short bit of time, when we get to that Final Four, no one ever says anything about if a team in the Final Four didn't win their conference championship. No one there says, oh, they lost to this team or that team. So why are we doing it with football? Like I don't get it. Like that we have a 12-game playoff, 12-team playoff now. Teams are either winning 3 or 4 games. I think in the next year or two, they're going to go up to 16 teams. It's just there's too much money there, so why not do it? Excuse me. Um, you know, so you got to win 3 or 4 games against really, really good teams. Why does it matter anymore if you win your conference championship? I do think it's going to suck a little bit for some of those big time, the rivalry week, which is usually around Thanksgiving. I think the Ohio State Michigan game maybe is going to lose a little bit of that luster that's had, because it used to be if you don't win that game, you're done, right? But now, as Ohio State proved, you can lose to Michigan, completely crap the bed against Michigan. And if you get in, turn it on and play the best football that I've ever seen Ohio State play, and get in and win it all. But I think it could change, like those Florida State Floridas, the Georgia Tennessees, the Alabama Auburns. You pick the rivalry, whatever rivalry matters most to you. I don't. That regular season matchup might lose a little bit more, but I'm okay with that. Like you see it happen, and with March Madness, like you get to those March Madness games, and it's just crazy good. And overall, I think college football did the right thing by going this way. That's my little rant on it. I just don't like that people are making that big deal of it when we don't do it for basketball when we get to March Madness. Real quick, man, the NFL coaching carousel's been busy, and if Chad, you're on here, I'm sorry, because we will talk about the Raiders a little bit here. The first hire, of course, was Mike Vrabel in New England. Surprise there. Who would have ever thought that was going to happen? I didn't see that happening. He's bringing the band back together, and he's bringing Super Genius back as his offensive coordinator. That's my nickname for McDaniels, who completely helped also ruin the Raiders franchise. This Super Genius, because just if you ask him, he'll tell you that he's the smartest guy in football. Whether he is or not, nobody really knows. But it's a failed head coach. But he is a pretty good offense coordinator. I'm sure he'll do great there. I hope he doesn't, but I'm sure he will, just because it'll annoy me. That gets me to my Raiders, who thought they had Ben Johnson. Everyone was saying that they had Ben Johnson all wrapped up in a nice little pretty bow. And instead, Ben Johnson says, nope, I'm going to Chicago because that team looks way better, which really, really made me feel bad because I'm like, man, when the Chicago Bears are a better situation than your team, that's just not a good sign. Uh, and Chad puts in where the Raiders ended up going. So instead, what do the Raiders do? They go to young Petey Carroll. Yeah. So the Raiders hire Pete Carroll. They do get a GM as well along the way in Spytech from Tampa Bay, who was basically buddies with Tom Brady. He's a teammate of Tom Brady. He helped sign Tom Brady in Tampa when he won a Super Bowl there. So I get that hire. He's supposed to be high up. I got no problem with that. But the Raiders then, instead of getting the young offensive coordinator, which I think would have really been nice, instead they go and they hire Pete Carroll out of the retirement home at 74 years old. So we'll see how that goes for my Raiders. I got nothing against Pete Carroll. He's a good head coach. I just don't know how long he's gonna be able to go at 74. Um, Back to Chicago real quick. They do hire Dennis Allen, the ex New Orleans head coach, to be the defensive coordinator. So we'll see how that goes for them. Excuse me, there it is. I knew that was coming, so I was trying to get that out. Um, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit. So Detroit just gets they lose both their OC and their defensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets. He did play there, so he's familiar with them. There's a lot of talk they might go to New Orleans too, but instead he picks the Jets to go to. So it'll be interesting to see how Detroit rebounds. Right, you're losing your offensive coordinator and you're losing your defensive coordinator. We'll see how that affects who they bring in for our guy out there, Paul Cordova. Shout out to him. When Jacksonville, for whatever reason, decided to keep Trent Baalke as their GM, they then decided, we're seeming to have a hard time finding a good coach because no one wants to be the coach for this guy. So they fired him. They should have done it earlier, but hey, better late than never. Then they go out and they somehow get Liam Cohen from Tampa Bay, who had just signed a long deal to stay as the offense coordinator in Tampa Bay. There's a little bit of talk out there that he was like ignoring calls from Tampa because they're afraid that he was gonna leave, and he's saying that he was at one of his kids' shows or something like that, and he was actually signing a deal with Tampa. So I kind of thought that was pretty funny. See here, what's Jeff adding here? He says, "We will see how good Campbell is. Guessing he struggles without those two." Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what to expect from Detroit. It'll be interesting who I think they brought in their linebacker coach is going to be the defense corner. I'm not sure they decided yet anything on the offensive side yet. So we'll see how that all plays out for them for sure. Then Dallas hires their offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer for their next head coach. So it looks like no Dion, no Witten after all. That's an interesting one to me too. I just don't get it where I don't look at Dallas's offense for over the last couple of years and say, yeah, that's going to be the solution for Mike McCarthy is just bringing in your existing offensive coordinator and making him the head coach. So that one to me is a bit of a surprise as well. So those were the big moves. The only one that still kind of leaves out there is the New Orleans Saints. They're the only opening left. Kind of a little bit surprised by that. I don't think it's a terrible spot to be at. They've got some young players. They got some talent there. I'm wondering kind of maybe there's not really been much talk out there lately. Maybe they're waiting now for Steve Spagnuolo, to be done with the season. KC, maybe that's where he ends up landing. Because that's really the only spot left he can land from there. Um, I was a little bit surprised too that nobody really went after Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. I really thought that he had a shot where somebody might go after him. Now Notre Dame did lose their defensive coordinator Al Golden. He went to Cincinnati. I think it's a good hire for Cincy because Notre Dame's defense was pretty good this year. So we'll see if he can make that climb up. But I was honestly a little bit surprised that nobody really bid after Marcus Freeman. I originally thought that would be a really smart hire for Chicago until they just until they went out and spent they didn't have to spend the money that the Raiders supposedly were going to spend more money on Ben Johnson than anything. But he felt that that's a better situation, which I can't argue with. I don't know who's going to be quarterback for my Raiders this year. Heck, Chad Smith out there. He used to play quarterback for our teams when we played at Kent State out in the lot. He's probably got a better arm and might be the better quarterback than anything that we have right now. But we'll see what they do there. One other really weird college coaching note that I do want to bring up here too, and this just happened yesterday. Jim Knowles, who earlier in the week said that he was staying on as Ohio State's defensive coordinator, decided yesterday that now he's going to be the defensive coordinator for Penn State. Rumor is that they offered him something like $3 million a year to leave Ohio State to go to Penn State. It just this one I just don't like. Not because he leaves Ohio State. I think if he would have said at the beginning that he wants to go somewhere else, hey, fine, good luck, wish him luck. But to say that you're going to go back with a team and then last second another team throws you more money and you decide to go, and this kind of leads into what the guys talked about in yesterday's show on the Sunday morning show. About they got into a lot about players getting paid and coaches can just leave on a dime, and here's another situation of that, right? Jim Knowles decides at the last second again, now okay, now I'm going to go to Penn State. Well, what about all these kids that that maybe are only playing for Ohio State because they want to play for him and his defensive system? So um, it's just interesting. I don't like it, but we'll see how this all goes. So my question for you guys to this is out there is too. So what do we do for the next 2 weeks? We don't, we got 2 weeks now to the Super Bowl. Um, what do you do with next Sunday when you don't have any NFL football going on? It's the first time in a while that we won't have a game going on, and we got to wait 2 weeks. So how do we get through there? What's going to be our bridge for next Sunday when we get to next Sunday? What are you going to be doing out there? Without any NFL football. Of course, you're like me with how the Raiders play. You might be looking forward to a Sunday without having to think about football. So, yeah, I'll be interested to see how we all get through next week. I know on our show next week, what we'll do, we're gonna break down Super Bowl 59. We'll get into some of the meat and potatoes. Definitely going to get into the great tournament coming up in hockey. It's an interesting little format that they're doing. I like that it kind of I will give the NHL credit for this, because we talk about these All-Star games a lot, and the NFL now, whatever the Pro Bowl is anymore, I don't even know what that is. Flag football, I think they do some other competition, dice rolling. I don't know what they do anymore in the Pro Bowl, but it's not watchable. The NBA has become somewhat not watchable as well. Chad has a good idea here. He's playing pickleball next Sunday. I like that. Nothing wrong with that. You know, I, who knows what that's become, or it's just the scores are just crazy high anymore with the NBA. The Major League Baseball still does it right with the All-Star game. I think that's definitely still the most watchable. The NHL went to this 3-on-3 format, which was okay when it first started. Basically, it's like what they do for overtime hockey, so you had a lot of up and down play, but it's not really true hockey. And so this is going to be, this little tournament that they're doing in that place is going to be interesting and fun. The prelim games are in the first two games are in Montreal, and then they're switching over to Boston for the last prelim round, and then the final will be in Boston. Canada will play the U.S. up in Montreal. That game is going to be crazy crowd wise. Sweden Finland's going to be an amazing game too. So we're going to break down and get into that a little bit more next week. We'll take advantage of that. We'll see what comes up over next weekend too. I'm sure there'll be something that comes up that will give us something good to talk about here. But what I do also want to do here to end the show is a real quick thank you. This has been a blast. I hope you enjoyed it, and then maybe if you didn't get to catch it live because you are actually driving home, maybe you'll find it on the stream later and you'll watch it and want to check in next week with us. As I always had the dream of being 13, 14. I wanted to get into sports broadcasting. I was going to be a sports broadcaster. And you sit there and you think about that dream. And then I go to Kent State, so I was going to major in journalism. And then I had to take the English test. Needless to say, that didn't go so well for me. So I didn't get to go through that. And so then all of a sudden, I pick up and I started doing these little hockey bits here, and here I am now. Thanks again to the guys for this great chance to be on here. Boss man chiming in and saying, "Great show, man. Thank you so much." Again, guys, I can't thank you guys enough. But hey, real quick, this is the place that you want to be if you like sports. Okay, you got shows all over the place. You got the guys on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays with three amazing shows. You got the Tuesday night flight, you got the Thursday night throwdown, and then of course this Sunday morning rise. You got Jack in the passenger seat with some great interviews, like the one he did last week with everyone doing the polar plunge was just awesome. So he's got a great ability to interview with some people, bringing up some different stuff and different lines of sports that you just don't get to hear of every day. That's definitely worth a listen. And then hey, if you're still into pro wrestling, you got the WrestleManiacs, one of the premier shows on Saturday nights to watch too. So I'm getting added into mix. The little me. So we'll do what we can to have some fun, get you to and from home safely. I'm like started this off the beginning of the show, and this is how I'm going to end the show. My line of work, I do claims, and my kids could always tell. And some of them are injury claims from auto accidents, and they can always tell when I get a bad one because I always text them immediately afterwards. Hey, love you guys. So without even saying a word of what happened in that accident, they know that it was a bad one. So I'm going to end my show with this. Just remember this: tomorrow is not guaranteed. So find those that you love. Make sure that you tell them that you love them each and every day because you just never know. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. Um, but hopefully we'll all be here tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll all be here next week, and hopefully we'll be here next Monday. And if you are here next Monday, hopefully you'll join me from 5 to 6 here on Drive Time. So with that, I will say adieu to you, and I wish you all a good night. And thanks to everyone for coming in. A few of my old school friends, Chad, Vic, and Jeff. I appreciate you guys chiming in here. It's great to see you guys, and hopefully you guys keep coming in, and we'll get more and more people in here. We'll have some fun. But again, thank you guys so much. Take care and good night.